important people here? There we go. Okay, let's get started. Yoso Bhagava Arahang Sama Sambuddho Sawakato Yena Bhagavata Dhammo Supatipano Yasa Bhagavato Sawaka Sangho Tamayang Bhagavantang Sadhamang Sasangang Imehi Saka Rehi Yatarahang Aropite Hiyapi Pujayama Sadhuno Bante Bhagava Suchira Parinipotopi Pachima Janata Nukampa Manasa Ime Sakare Dukata Panakala Bhute Patikan Hatu Amhakang Dikharatang Hitaya Sukhaya Alahang Sama Sambuddho Bhagava Buddhang Bhagavantang Abhivademi Sawakato Bhagavata Dhammo Dhammang Namasami Supatipano Bhagavato Sawaka Sangho Sanghang Namami Namo Tassa Bhagavato Arahato Samma Sambuddhassa Namo Tassa Bhagavato Arahato Samma Sambuddhassa Namo Tassa Bhagavato Arahato Samma Sambuddhassa Iti piso Bhagava Arahang Samma Sambuddho Vijja Charana Sampanno Sugato Lokavidu Anuttaro Purissa Dhammasarati Sata Deva Manu Sanang Buddha Bhagava Tamahang Bhagavantang Abhipujayami Tamahang Bhagavantang Sirasa Namami Sawakato Bhagavata Dhammo Sanditiko Akaliko Ehipasiko Opanayiko Pachata Vetitapo Vinyuhi Tamahang Dhammang Abhipujayami Tamahang Dhammang Sirasa Namami Supatipano Bhagavato Sāvaka Sangho Ujjapatipanno Bhagavato Sāvaka Sangho Jnaya Patipanno Bhagavato Sāvaka Sangho Samici Patipanno Bhagavato Sāvaka Sangho Yadidang Chattari Purisa Yugani Atta Purisa Pugala Esa Bhagavato Sāvaka Sangho Ahuneyo Pahuneyo Dakineyo Anjali Karaniyo Anutarang Punya Ketang Lokasa Tamahang Sangang Abhipujayami Tamahang Sangang Sirasanamami. Very good. Lots of questions tonight? Yeah. Doesn't matter. No, can't do that. This is what should be done by one who is skilled in goodness and who knows the path of peace. Let them be able and upright, straightforward and gentle in speech, humble and not conceited, contented and easily satisfied, not busy with duties, and frugal in their ways, peaceful and calm, and wise and skillful, not proud and demanding in nature. Let them not do the slightest thing that the wise would later reprove, wishing in gladness and in safety. May all beings be happy, whatever living beings there may be, whether they are weak or strong, omitting none, the great or the mighty, medium, short or small, the seen and the unseen, those living near and far away, those born and to be born, may all beings be happy. Let none deceive another, or despise any being in any state. Let none through anger or ill will wish harm upon another, even as a mother protects with her life her child, her only child, so with a boundless heart should one cherish all living beings, radiating kindness over the entire world, spreading upwards to the skies and downwards to the depths, outwards and unbounded, freed from hatred and ill will, where standing or walking, seated or lying down, freed from drowsiness. One should sustain this recollection. This is said to be the sublime abiding, by not holding to false views. The pure-hearted one, having clarity of vision, being freed from all sense desires, is not born again into this world. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. Okay. Very good. Oh, you're going to put this on. Maybe they should add a little electric connection over here, so if I give a wrong answer to the question, they can press a button. Bzzz. Or I tell a bad joke. Bzzz. So don't get any ideas, Christina. Okay. Anyway, Ajahn, please can you explain the significance of the seam of stone at Bodhinyana Monastery? What is the significance of the date 2530? Is that Armageddon? Yeah. Now those seam of stones, they mark the boundary where we can do ordinations. So that is like the boundary. You've got to make sure all the monks are inside that boundary when we do ordinations. But if you have a look, the difference between the dates in 1987, I think, and 2530 minus 1987. What's that number? You good at maths here? 2530 minus 1987 is 543. So 2530 was the Buddhist era. So to find out what the date in the Buddhist era, you add 543 on. So what's the date today? It's 2021. It's not 2021. It's 2564. Which actually explains a lot of things, why Buddhism is such an advanced religion. 500 years ahead of everybody else. So that's just, it was the Western year it was installed, and also the Buddhist year it was installed. That's all, very simple. It's not Armageddon. Armageddon, as I told you, is a movie, which is very, very funny. Please explain the role of ekaggata and how to sustain it throughout deep meditation. Thank you. Ekaggata, it's like in Pali, it's like a compound, three things put together. Eka, agga, and ta. And ta makes it like, what's it called? One of those nouns. What's the word again in English? Not a general noun. It's like what we say N-E-S-S, ness. Which takes something like calm and calmness. Or compound noun, I suppose. There's a word for it in Pali, in grammar, but anyway, you put N-E-S-S. Eka obviously means one. But the interesting word is agga. And sometimes people that don't know their Pali say ekaggata, like gata, gone to one. That's totally wrong, because there's double G in it. And what it means is agga is the Pali form of agra. And agra, what does agra mean to you? Does that ring any bells? Agra, Red Fort, Taj Mahal. The city in India, that was the capital of the Mughal Empire. And that agra means the capital, the peak, the top. So ekaggata means like one peakness of the mind. In other words, it's not just an ordinary peak, this is a huge peak. And ekaggata is another simile for, guess what? Jhanas. So if you read the Pali, you can see that this is another word for being in those deep meditation, where the mind has literally come to oneness. There's no duality in there. That's sometimes one of the difficulties of explaining what it's like when you're in there. Because when you're in there, it's just like such a single peak, summit of mindfulness and experience, but you do not have any width to be able to understand things. And the best way of describing that, as a kid, there was like this quiz show on TV, and at the end of the quiz show, they'd have a photo, a still photo, of a normal object but taken from an unusual angle. And what I remembered was like a little black circle in the middle, then a bit of white, and a little bit of red on the outside. And you're supposed to see who knows what it's a picture of. And I remember just the whole family were discussing, is it like an RAF signal or a target or a dartboard or something? Because that's what it looked like. And of course, the next week they show what it was a photograph. It's of a pencil, a sharpened pencil, but just taken, the sharp point on. And this, I remember that simile for how difficult it is in a deep meditation. You're seeing your mind, but it's so still. You cannot really get enough perspective while you're in that state to really fully understand it. That's why when you're in these jhanas, you're just really blissing out. But to trying to think or trying to understand what's going on, it's almost impossible. So that's people say, and it's true. Within jhana, you can't get any insight when you're right inside of it. But the point is, it leaves an indelible memory on you. Traumatic, but positive trauma. And it's really powerful. So afterwards, of course, what the heck was that? And that's when you can take the pencil, you can move it this way, that way, oh yeah, I can understand what it is now. Anything which is really still, you can't really understand it too much. You can't comprehend it when you can't see it from this way and that way and find out what it truly is. Imagine seeing Ajahn Brahm, but seeing him from a strange angle, just my feet, and a bit of a hill just behind me. Now, sometimes you can take some weird photographs of people, you won't know who they are. But you've got to look at it this way, that way, and it's very obvious who they are when you have multiple shots of a person. So that's actually why ekaggata, the one peak of mind, and there's a singleness there, there's no width of your perception. So while you're in there, you're having a great time. But the only way you can understand it afterwards is when you come out. Once you're out, then you go and sort of see it this way, that way, and understand what it is. So anyone who's in a deep meditation and they start to have the idea, yeah, this is jhana. Or sometimes people say, is this a jhana? Those are sure signs it's not. You can't say such things in there. Your mind is just too pointed. Anyway, so that's what happens, ekaggata. A big peak, summit of the mind. When is the best time of day to meditate when we go back to our normal routine? Says the amount of time we should aim for once, twice a day. Thank you so much. Yeah, it's a common question. So the best time to meditate is now. The worst time to meditate is later. And that's not just a joke, that's really important. There's all sorts of reasons to put it off. How long should you meditate? How much should you meditate? How much should you eat? Depends if you're hungry. Sometimes it's very cold, you've been working hard, of course you want to eat more. If you've just been meditating in deep meditation, you've hardly got any appetite at all. And appetite changes. How long do you sleep? When you get some lots of deep meditation, you don't need much sleep at all. When you're sick, you need a lot of sleep. So how much should you meditate for? Ask your mind. Mind, how much meditation do you want today? And follow that answer. Just like you ask your tummy how much it wants to eat. And sometimes it's really, because we don't select our food, it's given to us. Sometimes you get some terrible food, and just you make the best you can, and then the next day, you get all the food you like, but you can't eat it all because you're going to eat so much, and we're not allowed to keep it and store it for the next day. So it's really just hard being a monk. All the food you like, you have to give away, and then the following morning you get the food you don't want. But I do okay. Thank you, Ajahn Brahm, for your time and your answers. You're welcome. I couldn't choose between these three topics as they're all important questions I'm asking myself. Why do I get emotional to chanting? And why are we sensitive, get emotional, cry? That's an excellent question, because there's so many people who've been crying, during the meditation or afterwards, and it's not because of the bad quality of my jokes. That's not the case. And it's like inspiration sometimes. And I told this to many of the meditators who come for the interview, but that time, or did I say it here? I don't know where I said this, but there was this Aussie guy, and remember 30, 40, and he asked me that question on the interview. He said, I don't know what's happening. I came here to meditate the second day, I wanted to cry. What's happening? And that's the answer I gave him. He said, when was the last time you cried? And he went silent. And he said, I think when I was a kid, maybe, 10, 11, 12 or something. And he said, my father saw me and said, Aussie boys do not cry. And you can understand what that does to you. And so I told him, and these were the words, I said, you've got a lot of crying to catch up on. And he, made a big dent in his crying deficit. He's in here just crying in the morning, crying in the afternoon. And they're worried, like many people come to interviews. Am I disturbing the others? You're not. He got so much kindness and compassion from all the other meditators, especially when I said, why? Because he needed to. And people saw him and they thought, so cute and so sweet. If any of you men, wanted a partner in life and you haven't got you're single, learn how to cry. You get a lot of proposals after this retreat. But, of course, I cry as well. And I cry, inspiration really gets me. And I tell the story that there's that very famous Buddha statue. We haven't got a copy of it here, but you've seen it. It's got this big ring on the back of it. And it was found in just outside of Benares in Sarnath. And because unfortunately the Mughals, the Turushka, the Turkish Muslims came through years and years and years ago, and I think it was in the 13th century. And they destroyed everything. And they saw a Buddha statue, they would just smash it. But this one was actually buried. And so I think the British found it when they were excavating, and it's such a beautiful Buddha statue. And it's in the museum just outside of the deer park, Sarnath, outside of Benares. I always wanted to see it, because I've seen the photographs of it. I always thought it was one of the most beautiful sculptures I've ever seen. And so the first time we went on pilgrimage to Sarnath in India, and we went, I asked, you've got to pay money to get into the museum. Can somebody just get me a ticket to get inside the museum? And they did. It's only just 50 cents or something in the equivalent Aussie money. And there wasn't any guide there. I didn't know which way to go. But I was just going in there to search for this Buddha statue. I knew it was in there somewhere. And going this way and that way. And I turned a corner. And I always remember this. It was the end of this corridor. I just burst out crying. I was by myself. It's the most beautiful thing I'd seen. And I just went right close. I don't know why. But for me, it's the most beautiful Buddha statue I've ever seen in my life. and just had a nice little sob, and then just bowed 3 times, pay respects, did a bit of chanting, and I went to join the main group. And then the next time I went to India, that was on my hit list. I've got to go and see this. And I told all of the group, this time I went with the people on pilgrimage with me, and I told them, look, this happened to me last time, but this time I'll be restrained. And as soon as I went there, I couldn't stop it. And it was happiness, it was joy, it was beautiful. And then the best story was the 3rd time I went there. And that was another pilgrim, another year. And I told all the people who were going with me, I said, look, it's really affected me twice in succession. And the first time was a surprise. The second time I tried to restrain myself, I couldn't. The 3rd time I said, I'm just going to let it happen. I can't stop it anyway. So if you see me cry, you know the reason why. And so I was really excited, just waiting to actually have a nice, good cry. It's this beautiful, inspiring statue. And then I turned the corner of the gallery, and they were doing renovations. It was covered with a cloth, you couldn't see it at all. Oh, that's what I thought. I thought, oh. And the painter, this Indian, there's only one person, he's painting the ceiling above it, so he put the cloth on so that the paint wouldn't drip on the statue. And I don't know if he was like just a painter, so he couldn't understand English. But he looked at me, and something happened, because he took the cloth off. Bow, 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 bow. And I remember that was a beautiful experience. Not embarrassed about telling people that, because it was inspiring. Why are you ashamed of just being inspired? And I don't mind telling this other story. One of those pilgrimages I went to, that before you go, you all meet together and just give some information, like what's it called when you tell about some of the rules you have to keep, what you don't do, and what's going to happen. And there's this elderly couple, many of you know, Barbara and Ainsley. And Ainsley was, the real Buddhist already for a long time. Well, Barbara is now as well, but she was an Anglican before. No, Uniting Church, I think. And anyway, when I told them about these stories, that some of these places are so inspiring, that, you don't know why, but you just burst out crying. It's happened to many people there. I usually also cry on Vulture's Peak. I love that place. Vulture's Peak, because there's so many stories in the sutras. That's where the Buddha would spend so much time meditating. So simple. And I love that place, and you just go in there and just feel so high. And anyway, telling those stories to Barbara and Ainsley. And of course, people are very respectful. Barbara thought I was a crazy monk. I mean, why do you cry in just ruins? No, she was from England. There's lots of old castles and ruins there. And she's been in sort of Windsor Castle or not Buckingham Palace, but the Tower of London and stuff. She never cries there. It's just old stones, that's all there is. And so she was totally dismissive of me. She never said. But then the first night we arrived in Bodh Gaya and checked into the cheap hotel and all went there to pay respects to the Mahabodhi tree, and there's this little temple in front. And that evening she came and says, can I please ask forgiveness of you? I said, why? She told me what happened. Ainsley was with her and confirmed this. And she went into the main temple at Bodh Gaya, and just ruins, really interesting ruins, a bit of different sort of sculptures and stuff. And as soon as she walked in, and she sobbed. And she didn't know what the heck was going on. And, she really cried her eyes out. And she said, you're right, Ajahn Brahm, some of these places, I don't know why, have a huge amount of power. And I just couldn't help it, but just have a really nice cry. That happens too. But sometimes the inspiration, sometimes, I talk a lot. So it's only, probability theory that sooner or later I'm going to say something wise and going to inspire you. And when it does, sometimes it just hits a spot and you understand something and you get so much energy and power and just tears. And that's described as like piti, inspiration, joy. And it appears like that sometimes, and there's nothing wrong with it. In fact, it's beautiful to do that. You feel just so warm and just so wonderful. So if you see anybody doing that here, in this room, don't sort of, put your arm around and say, "Are you okay?" My goodness, they're okay. Just leave them alone and realize they're having a very inspiring time. Wow. And then, you have a cry later on. Because it's joyful tears. It's just part of being a human being. And instead of like saying, boys don't cry, nuns don't cry, monks don't cry. I said, how stupid that is. If it needs to come out, great. Do it. So there's so much things that give you a lot of joy. And that's really celebrating the event, the inspiration. But just trying to suppress it, that just really ruins a great opportunity to really bliss out. Number 2, what do you define as truth? Again, you don't define truth. Truth, like many other things, has an emotional flavor to it. Not an intellectual flavor, this, that, and the other. But how does it feel? When it's real, when it's truthful. And it's also, if it's truth, you can't trust it's truth unless you're these 5 hindrances which distort perception are just suppressed for a while. Because too often you see what you want to see. You dismiss what you don't want to see. And sometimes we're not sort of still enough to let the truth actually emerge from this world. Or other times we're too sleepy. We can't really see the truth. But truth is something, and as many of you have experienced all the little truths and insights you've seen, sometimes it really rocks you. Whoa! And it has a power to it. You start to see things in a different way. And just getting adjusted to a new way of perception of things is just sometimes quite. You have to do it, you can't ignore it, but it's sometimes really quite challenging for you. Sometimes you can't sleep at night because wow. But it doesn't matter, you can catch up and sleep the next day. But truth is a powerful emotional force as well, that's part of it. So, if you are just sitting here and say, yes, I understand the 4 Noble Truths now. You come to me and say, Ajahn Brahm, I'm now enlightened. Each one of these very deep stages has a powerful emotional effect on you. As he just turns you upside down, blows your mind, as they said, or just enjoying it. And the other thing with such experiences of truth, I know that it's mostly, please excuse me, but mostly Sri Lankans. They're really, really, really keen to become a stream winner, a so one. That's one of the common, it hasn't actually asked me yet, the common questions, I want to be a so one. How does so one happen? How to become a stream winner? And, it is, I keep saying this and people argue with me, but this is what many of the other monks say, that you need the jhanas, at least one. At least getting close enough, but getting a jhana, why not? And when you do that, sometimes when the insight comes, it just really does blow you. And then for a while you're free from all of the hindrances, and it feels like you're enlightened. And I don't mind. These are just 2 good stories. But like the time when I thought, is it okay to tell when I became enlightened? Some of you heard that story before. My 4th year as a monk. I always like to do things quickly, because there's many other things you have to do in life. Right, during the rains retreat, and just nothing, no duties or anything, and my meditation was really going well. And just remember one evening, it was just really going well. So you do the chanting and meditate with the other monks, and then they go back to bed, and staying up a bit longer, and just not forcing it. You don't try. It's just natural. Just didn't want to go to bed yet, and you're walking meditation, sitting meditation. I think it was during the walking meditation, going so still and peaceful. And all these insights started to flood in. It's amazing, things I never understood before or seen before. Like the universe, I was stood enough, the universe was showing all its secrets to me. I'm getting more and more inspired, no possibility of going to sleep with all that energy coming into you. And then the big one came. Wow, that's it. Fully enlightened monk. That was juicy. And then now what do? It's about 2:30 in the morning, 2 o'clock in the morning. And the bell goes at 3 o'clock in those monasteries. So I thought, well, I'll just go and lay down, have a stretch. But not to go to sleep. You couldn't go to sleep. Too much energy. And then the bell went. I actually went to have not a rest, just a stretch, lay down and rest my bones. And then just before the bell went, about 2:45, I had to get up. It's only half an hour just laying down to stretch. And then get up and went to the hall, and I was in the hall meditating when the bell was rung. And then we do the meditation when they did the chanting again. One of the signs was, Yo So Bhagawa. Oh, I was so inspired and so much energy. And then we went on the arms round. And when I went on the arms round, I had so much metta. And all these villagers, they're just giving like a little bit of sticky rice in the bowl. You don't realize, do you, villagers? You're giving this rice to a newly attained arahat. I zapped them all with loving kindness. Now, to really appreciate the stories, I've told it many times, that in that monastery and many other places in the northeast of Thailand, the food is only the 1 meal a day, and it was really, honestly, it was disgusting. Many other of those Westerners have been traveling, and we all agreed, and we were honest about it, it's the worst food we've ever had in the world. Whatever crawled on the forest floor, that's what you ate. I told you the story of just a frog on the top of the rice. Once we had actually frog soup. So, there was a saucepan. We looked inside, all these frogs were floating in this water. It was just boiled water, no salt, no seasoning, no vegetables, nothing. Just as if the frogs had just jumped into a pot of boiling water. And that was it. And they were small frogs. So, on these little Chinese spoons, they're just fat quite well on the spoon. So you took a bit of rice in your mouth, and then it was gross. We had nothing else to eat. But the major thing you ate at those times was, it was called like rotten fish, pladek. And the rotten fish, to understand what it was, that in most of the villages, they catch the fish during the rainy season. Because when the paddy fields flooded, there's lots of fish there, only tiny fish. And they couldn't eat all the fish, in that rainy season, so they stored those, put them in earthen pots, just shoved them in there, and put a bit of plastic on the top, and kept them there to actually ferment or go off, or, like what they say those people who ate sort of like, was it pigeons or something, geese or something, it was called going game. In other words, going rotten. And that rotten fish is what we ate. That was our source of protein. So whatever else, a bit of bamboo shoots or leaves or something to make some sort of curry. And that was just every day, having rotten fish curry. But this day, coming back from alms round, I saw there was 2 pots. I thought, what's going on here? And then one pot of that curry was, no, please excuse me, there was no vegetarian. I was a vegetarian before I became a monk. But it was just, you have to eat what the villagers ate. And so the other pot was not what the villagers ate at all. It came from town. And it was a pork curry. That was actually edible. And it was, you can smell it. It smelled delicious. And I started to think to myself, how come today we have got a celebrity curry? Who could that be for? And I thought, the heavenly beings want to give me a good meal because of my new attainments. I actually thought that. And so, we have the rice in our bowl, and we pass the 2 pots of curry down. We always do that, except for that day. Because the senior monk, he was ahead of me. I was number 2 monk, and even though I only had 4 reigns. The senior monk, he grew up in that village. He took one smell of the rotten fish curry and left it. And the pork curry, he opened it up. And he put about 3 whopping ladles of that pork curry in his bowl. There's no way that you can eat that much. Greedy pig. But it didn't matter, because there was plenty left for me. But what he did next was just too much. He took the rest of the pork curry, he had the big saucepan there, and he tipped it all into the rotten fish curry. Stirred it up and saying, it's all the same. It's all the same. And that is absolutely true. This is what happened. And I thought, please excuse the language, bloody hypocrite. If it's all the same, why didn't he mix it up before he took his first of all? He's just not a real output. What did he do this for? And I was really upset. And then it really hit me. Enlightened beings don't get upset. And that's when I realized I wasn't really enlightened after all. And if ever that experience happens to you, after you think you're enlightened and then you find out you're not, you don't care what you eat. Shoved it in there. I was so depressed. And that is pretty accurate what happened that day. And it taught me a wonderful lesson, that sometimes you can have these great insights and you really think that that's destroyed all these defilements, wrong ways of looking at things. But you've got to wait for a while. Sometimes you have to wait for years. And then you can sometimes see, it's like lust or anger or ill will or pride come up, and you realize, I've still got some work to do. It's a bit disappointing, but it's best it comes up. It's one of the reasons why you don't get confirmed you're a stream winner. So wait for a while, see what happens. If someone thinks that they go to these deeper stages of enlightenment like a non-returner or a full enlightened, I think I can say this to you. Sometimes, say like Dorothy, you come up and say you're fully enlightened. Standard method for a teacher is to look at you and say, no, women can't become enlightened. Then I'll wait and have a look at her face. And if she says, what are you talking about? Of course women can become enlightened. You're a misogynist, Ajahn. I thought you were really good. You ordained nuns, but underneath it's obviously that, you're a misogynist. In other words, you try and make her angry on purpose. Please excuse me, but you do that, because if you're really enlightened, no way you can get angry. Okay. Women can't get enlightened. Okay. And that's a sign that that maybe you are. You just can't get enlightened. So you just can't get angry if you're enlightened. And that's one sort of thing. It's not that hard to make people angry. And that's only if people think they're so enlightened. So those are little tricks of the trade. So what do you find as truth? And just wait and see, and to see if that truth lasts when it's tested. How can we end up doing things that are always thought we will be never capable of? Things defined as bad in the society and religion. How can we end up doing things that we always... Somebody said, and I think it's a very good point, that it's sometimes a situation makes good people do bad things. And sometimes we need to arrange situations so good people don't need to do bad things. And sometimes you need to avoid situations, where, especially if there's a mass of people. I remember going to a protest, when I was a young man before I went to Thailand to become a monk. And, it's a very good protest. I forget what it was for. But then somebody started throwing stones at the police. And I just left as quickly as I could. There's something really wrong about that. And of course, sometimes I was very strong to leave quickly, because if you stay there too long, you become part of the crowd. It's as if the crowd takes over your consciousness and changes your will. It makes bad situations, makes good people do bad things. So, keeping good company. Stay with good people. And then you find out you don't tend to do bad things. Ajahn, if you don't even need to instruct your mind what to do, is it because you had instructed it many times in the past? Yep, that's a good answer. So how is it simply habitual? Or the mind simply knows what to do to begin with, and that you just trust it? How does it work? Why it doesn't seem to be as automatic as you describe for everyone else? It seems it only applies to you. Of course, it never started like that, being automatic. I was very fortunate to be able to go, even as a young man, to good teachers. And, being born in a good family, I said my parents weren't rich, but they were just pretty moral people. And also that later on going to actually the university wasn't that moral, I've got to say that, to Cambridge. Every year, because I was a scholar there, I went there for the scholarship, they had the scholars' dinner. And the scholars' dinner, people thought, it's all for free for scholars, and this big sort of banquet. And this was rich university, so the people serving you were dressed as butlers. But it started off, I remember, in the gallery. That was built by Sir Christopher Wren. It's a famous place. Had this big, I don't know if it's oaken or mahogany table there, and there was the butlers coming around with sherry. And I hadn't given up alcohol at that time, and being a young man, you know what young men are, just see how much more alcohol you can get than others. So, because I was studying maths at that time, the butlers were walking around the table in a clockwise direction. And so with my mate, I said, if we walk around the table in an anti-clockwise direction at the same speed, then we get twice as many refills as our friends. That's a stupid thing which so-called clever students do. Then after that, we went to the dining room, the 9-course meal. Of course, in Chinese food, you have even more than that, but for English food, 9-course meal was amazing, and every course had a different wine. And so, you had your wine glass there, and these butlers were hovering behind you, and it really was the case that if your glass was less than half full, they topped it up. Always coming on your right side. It was the right side or the left side or something, but they were so well trained. And you're sitting next to members of the staff or Nobel laureates or something. And I thought the Nobel laureates would know better. So you drank lots and lots of wine. And then, you weren't finished yet. When they cleaned up, you had to go to the old library. And when you went to the old library, you had 3 glasses there. One for port, one for claret, and one for Madeira, which were always filled up. And cigars, and fruit, if you wanted any fruit. And by that time, most people, especially me, were getting a bit sozzled. And then, we hadn't finished yet, then they passed around this goblet. I know it was gold and jewellery. These are rich universities. Should have been in a museum, not passed around to people like me. But anyway, they were this big goblet, and it was filled, I forget, with port or Madeira or whatever it was filled with, to the brim. And you had to drain it, drink it all down, and then say a toast in Latin. And I don't know what happened next. But I managed to get back to my room, and you felt terrible when you woke up the next morning. This big, terrible hangover. But what really scared me was as I woke up and opened my eyes, there's a big pot of vomit on my pillow. And it wasn't that it was disgusting, which it was, but I knew enough about medicine that could kill you. Many people choke on their vomit when they're drunk, and they don't know how to expel it. And then afterwards, you just try and stagger out to get something to eat or something, and you're just really hard to walk. You feel just this huge headache, and it feels so terrible with the hangover. And everyone was saying, oh, what a great night that was, what a wonderful night that was. And these are all the professors of physics and Greek and Latin and history. And I thought, this is absolutely ridiculous. That was the last time I took any alcohol at all. After that, I just totally gave it up. It was an excess of that experience, but I never wanted to go again. And so afterwards, when the scholars' dinner came, I said, no, I'm not going. And other people said, can I go in your place? I said, no. I can't encourage that at all. So sometimes I realized that people are just really smart in their field in academia were so stupid in life. What are you doing that for? You didn't need to either. So anyway, I don't know what the question was, but that's a bit of my story. Oh yeah, about just things become automatic. I think it's because you always challenge what other people are doing. And even it was like a Nobel laureate, some Nobel laureate for chemistry was there, I know. But anyway, even though there was really supposed to be very smart people there, you didn't believe them. It was obvious that they were doing something which was not really healthy and also not very useful. It's also maybe because I was poor and I saw all that food on my pillow which I'd vomited out. What a waste of a lot of good food that was. Somebody was cooking that for hours and just really putting the skills of their life into the cooking. And I just, that was just such a waste when there's lots of very poor people in the world. Anyway, Ajahn, to cheer me up and everyone else up. The happiest moment in my life was meditating at Jhana Grove in India pilgrimage with Ajahn together in the group, so blissful and serene. Wow, wow, wow. Jhana Grove, that's the in Sawati. That's an old monastery which was given by Anathapindika, and you could go there and have a nice and meditate. And that's wonderful. I'm glad that was a very happy experience for you. Because some of those places do have power. Like I hope that you've tried meditating in Bodhinyana Monastery Hall, because that has power. You go and sit there and, whoa, this is great. Dear Ajahn, during meditation, my mind often creates weird kind of negativity, preventing me from getting into deep meditation. Should I use this negativity as a meditation object? And if so, would loving kindness to this negativity help? How do I train my mind to create positivity instead? Yeah, sometimes it's good to actually, as a meditation object, just to look at it and learn from it. What's it trying to teach me? Where's this negativity coming from? So just you keep it up here. It takes a bit of courage to do that, because negativity is not a nice thing to watch. But you just see it up here. What is it? Depersonalize it. It's not my negativity. It's just negativity. It's caused by something or other. I don't know why. But I think I said to somebody during the interview time that some of that negativity, I'll tell the full story. There was one of the nuns, not one of the nuns at Dharmasara, many years ago, came to spend a rains retreat at Bodhinyana Monastery, where nuns could spend the rains retreat there. And that she was getting some really nice meditation. So when she was really getting hot in her meditation, she was coming to see me almost every day for like an interview. And then I was getting excited too. I didn't mind because she was getting really strong nimittas, really beautiful nimittas, and that's just on the edge of jhanas. And I was confounded too. I didn't know why she couldn't make that tiny step and go right into the jhana and just really have some wonderful experiences. And then, I was asking her, well, what's the problem? Why don't you just let go a tiny bit more and just get the jhana? And then she came on one of the interviews and she told me why, and she got the reason. And she said to me, and it was just, this was not inspiring, this was really saddening to me. He said, because I don't feel I deserve to get so much happiness. And that was just, of course you deserve it, but I knew that she wouldn't believe me. She had to get that realization herself. You deserve all the happiness in the world. You deserve it. And where did that idea come from? You don't deserve to be enlightened, or you don't deserve to be happy. I'm just a lay person. Yeah, I'm a woman. I'm not Asian. I can't do it. Of course you can. But it's really hard to convince you of that. And that is one of the biggest problems. People think they don't deserve such bliss and happiness. So a lot of times that negativity is caused by that wrong attitude. You're getting close. And you're getting even like nimittas or sign of nimittas, and you stop it. Almost like self-destruct. You don't feel you deserve to be enlightened. And that's part of my job. To convince you, first of all, you can get jhanas. Lay people think, no. You already mentioned that question. No, lay people can't. Monks and nuns maybe, but not us. Yes, you can. And number two, you deserve to. Once you realize you deserve to, then it's like a big blockage, negativity is taken away. And it happens. Yay! I'll tell this story. Sometimes I look at people, and I've already known many of you for such a long time, but sometimes you get these people coming for the first time on a retreat. And this story, it's a bit embarrassing for me to say this, but I was just hanging around the reception area where people were just checking in, and this guy came in, and he was quite big, Australian, Caucasian, and he was wearing what everyone calls traditional Australian dress. Thongs, shorts, and a singlet. So you could see all his tattoos. He had heaps of tattoos on. And as soon as I saw him, of course, my stupid mistake was judging people. And just 6 kilometres down the road is Karnat Prison Farm. I said, "You've come to the wrong place, sir. The prison is just a bit further down the road." Stupid Ajahn Brahm. And he said, "No, I'm on the list." He gave me his name. I could see he was down there. So I'm sorry. Please forgive me. I thought it's amazing just the amount of weird people you get to come on these retreats these days, or something like that. Totally judgmental, because I don't choose who comes on these retreats. It's just a name. So anyway, he came on this retreat, on one of these retreats. It was the January retreat years ago. And anyway, he came for his interview one day, and I could see, his face was very clear and just bright. And then he started describing what he'd been through. And it really blew my mind. I just, wow. I asked a few questions, and to confirm, he got into a jhana. And he was the least likely, from the outside. But, he's had a very pure mind. And wow, well done. So that taught me my lesson. You can't judge anybody, and the most unlikely people. So if you haven't had a jhana yet, just get some tattoos. No, that was his fashion statement where he was from. He had a very good person, so you can't tell. Anyway, Ajahn, whenever I come on a retreat, I dream vividly and abundantly. What do you believe the role of dreams is? To clear off anything unresolved, to connect us to greater wisdom, both other, many thanks. A lot of time it's just when you are out there in the world, you're so busy. So your brain doesn't have a chance to process all this other stuff. And so maybe you may have dreams, you don't remember them, or the dreams aren't clear because you're exhausted in lay life. You come here, you have a nice rest, good food, good entertainment in the evening. So you're nice and happy. You don't do anything, you just sit there. Other people do the work, mostly. And so, of course, when you go to bed at night, your brain is just basically free and energized. And you have a sleep, and of course the dreams will be more vivid, and sometimes the brain will be a bit more playful. You have some really weird dreams, strange dreams, or whatever. But if you have really weird or strange dreams, and if you just get fed up with them, then what you can do is what we call the programming of your mindfulness. So you're in bed, you're nicely tucked up, you haven't gone to sleep yet, you close your eyes, and you make the resolution. May have a nice peaceful sleep. If you have any dreams, may there be beautiful dreams. And you can describe it more like dreams of peace, calm, good health, whatever. And if you make those resolutions, I usually make it very simple. There's not lots of words like that. May have a very peaceful and meaningful dreams. And I repeat it another 2 times for myself. May have peaceful and meaningful dreams. May have peaceful and meaningful dreams. And you're attentive to it. You use that mindfulness, which you learn here, to really say those words and give them meaning and listen very deeply to them. And then you forget about them. And you go to sleep. And it does affect what happens in your sleep state. To have good, meaningful, peaceful dreams. So you can try that, see if it works. Ajahn, I see the daily schedule starts at 4 a.m., but I've been unable to get up before 6 a.m. all these days. I want to be able to rise at 4 a.m. How do I do this? Any practical tips, please? Yes. Change the clock 2 hours. So when you see 6 o'clock, it's really 4 o'clock. But basically, I don't know, why do you want to get up at 4 o'clock? If it's 6 o'clock and it's the nature for you, then fine. But the other way of doing it, again, you can program your mindfulness and just say, tomorrow morning I'll get up at 4. Tomorrow morning I'll get up at 4. Tomorrow morning I'll get up at 4. And then, sometimes in the middle of the night, it's dark in your room and you wake up. Don't look at the clock until you're out of bed. You look at the clock first of all, you say it's 4 o'clock, oh damn it, and you just turn over and go to sleep again. So get out first of all, and then look at the clock. And then you find out it's 4 o'clock, and actually I feel quite good. So you've done it, well done. You do it for one day, it doesn't really matter, because you can have as I say, you can have a sleep during my talk, while you're still sitting here. But that's a good way to do it. Because a lot of time, you may want to rise at 4, but your body refuses because it's exhausted and tired. So be kind to your body. Ajahn, the other day you described people who are able to make table move just by putting their hands on the table. I have seen this happen and wondered, how can they do this? Can you explain? There are some things which are inexplicable. I don't know. Do you? Oh, wow. You always get one of these questions every time. Really deep question. There is nothing. You understand? What are the causes for the jhanas? And why do so few people attain them? Thanks. Causes for the jhanas are just being still. And people are afraid of being still because if you're totally still, you disappear. And people don't like to disappear. They're afraid. Because in that disappearance, it's like you don't exist. You're gone. You're gone, baby. You're gone. I like using modern speech. But that's one of the things which arouses that fear. When you get so close to these things that you know it's going to be good, but you're not quite ready for it, not me. And sometimes people are a bit afraid. If I get into jhana, do I have to become a monk or a nun? Do I really? Can I get into jhana and have good fun without having to give up everything? It's a bit scary, isn't it? I can understand that. But, I know one monk I'm very close to that when he was starting to get these really great nimittas and really close to the jhanas, it was like you're on the edge. And it was safe, it was beautiful, it's this amazing thing and nothing's going to harm you. There's going to be so many benefits, but it's a bit scary. It's just so attractive, but oh no, I don't know if I should do this, but it's just so compelling and oh, what the hell, I'm going for it. It's almost like a little battle there. Not like speaking like that, but describing it. How much are you willing to let go? Even though it's going to be so wonderful if you do let go. So that's one of the reasons why we let go little by little, more and more, and we feel safer as we get a little bit deeper into, say, the delightful breath. And you're doing it here. You're going to go home in a few days, so it's not that scary. You can get all of your sensory pleasures, and these days it's much easier because you won't miss an episode of your favourite sort of TV series because it's all recorded. So I still remember two of our caretakers at Nolamara Centre, and they were very good. We were having a retreat day or something, and they were cricket fans, and there was a big one-day cricket match. But they didn't matter because they recorded it on the TV or the recorder. So they recorded it and gave an extra 10 or 15 minutes for, afterwards in case the match extended. And they both, after looking after me, they decided not to look at the news to see what would happen, but actually just to turn on the cricket match and watch it in the evening. And they watched it and they watched it, and there's one of these cricket matches, it came down to the last ball. I don't know how many hours it was. The last ball, and I think, Australia needed like 3 runs to win or something like that. And it could go either way. And then I was so excited, watching all that time on the last ball, and then the recording turned off. They didn't get the timing right, and they couldn't find out who won. I said, that's what happens with sensory pleasures. They always let you down. And I had to wait the following day. They said that was just so interesting karma. Anyway, the causes for the jhana is not worrying about who won the cricket. And the causes for the jhana is letting go, a lot of letting go. And when you're letting go, it's not just letting go of what's on the outside, letting go of the thing which does the attaching. I call this the simile of the hand. This is another interesting story. That just when you start teaching, you can experience stuff, but how do you put that into words to explain it to people, to make it easier for people to get? And so I started saying that I notice my hand, I'm always picking up things. Pick up a piece of paper, put it down. Pick up a piece of paper, and then you pick up something else. You pick up something else. Put it down, hand, stop it. And then it goes and picks up something else. Because that's the nature of the hand, to pick things up. So the only way I can stop attaching to things is cut off my hand. And I thought, wow, what a great simile that is. And then later on, I was reading through the Anguttara Nikaya, the simile of the hand. The only way to stop picking things up is cut it off. The Buddha got there before me. And that was really spooky, because I hadn't read that before, not in this life. But he got the same simile, so where did that come from? Don't need to tell you. So sometimes you're cutting off the thing which attaches you, the sense of self. If that's still there, a bit of me, then you'll always be attaching to stuff. So after a while you cut that off, and the first time you experience that is in the jhanas. You're not attaching to anything. You're totally letting things go. And this is the bliss and the beauty which happens. And it gives you more encouragement to do the bigger letting go of getting enlightened. So a few people attain them. Yeah, you all attain them sooner or later. Dear Ajahn, how do you relax? Thanks. And they signed it 2 tenths.
2 tenths.
Yeah. That joke the other day. Remember that? I told you that. So, how do you relax? Is with kindfulness to begin with. Kindness and mindfulness. So you find a piece of your body which is a bit tight and tense. You focus on parts of your body, or little parts of the body, and you're kind to it. Oh yeah, I can tell this story. And this is how people relax. I think I did tell that about the lady who had panic attacks in Adelaide. So that's not here. Okay. So I got a phone call one day, and there was a young student. She was in Adelaide University studying dentistry, but she had severe anxiety disorder. And she was so afraid that she was in her bedroom and she couldn't get out of bed, sometimes get out of bed but not go out through the door. And because she was a student in an Australian university, she had all these Fiji GPs, psychologists and psychiatrists trying to help her, but nothing was working. And her piece of good karma was her uncle was a strong supporter of Bodhinyana Monastery. And so, he came up to me one day and said, look, this is my niece over in Adelaide University. She's really in big trouble. Can you help her? I said, yeah, sure. So I asked her to give me a call. She gave me the call. And I said, I hear you have anxiety. Yeah, I'm just in bed and just can't get out of bed. I'm terrified. And I said, when you have anxiety, where do you feel it? It's in my chest. That's not good enough, I said. I want coordinates up from your navel, your belly button, actually a center of the feeling of anxiety and panic in your chest. Where's its center? How many centimeters above your belly button? And is it sort of right in the center of your chest, or to the left or to the right? And as it extends outwards, is it a circle or an oval? And actually, how does it extend? Which way? And then I said, give me a call in 3 days, because I'm a busy monk. But she had nothing to do. So of course, when she had panic attacks, and she had confidence in me. So she started to feel it. And 3 days later, she gave this really good description of the extent of the tension in her chest when she had a panic attack. I said, very good. Now, exactly how does it feel? Describe the feeling of tension and tightness. She said, well, it's just burning. That's not good enough. I want a really detailed description. Give me a call in another 3 days. And the reason I was doing this, because I was making sure that she was taking some responsibility for her therapy, not just asking the doctor to give her medication, or she was actually doing something for her own health. And after 3 days, she was a very intelligent woman. So she described what it felt like. I was really impressed. Now, underneath all that was not just her taking responsibility for her therapy and not feeling such a victim anymore, but doing something about it, because sometimes sickness is quite humiliating. You have to ask somebody else to fix you up instead of trying to do something to fix yourself up. So she had that good feeling about that she was doing something. Number 2, it was mindfulness. This was a time when mindfulness wasn't a common word. She was becoming mindful of the corresponding feeling in her body when she has an anxiety. Great. Now, the next thing to do, now you're aware of it, really aware of it, next thing to do, when you have those anxiety attacks, and you can feel its manifestation, physical manifestation in your body, get your hand and start to massage it. Give it a nice, really calm, peaceful, gentle, loving massage. And that she was surviving in that apartment because she had a boyfriend, live-in boyfriend, who was washing up for her, feeding her, doing all the stuff for her. And it's amazing having a boyfriend like that, who do all that for you. I said, if you can't give yourself a massage, ask your boyfriend. I don't think you'd object. And she did that, give me a call in 3 days. And what she said next, in 3 days, I said, did you follow the instructions? Yes. Had a panic attack and you felt it? Yeah, yes. And you massaged it? Yes. Now what happened when you massaged it with a lot of kindness? She said the physical feelings just vanished after a while. I just relaxed the area in my chest, which was really tense or burning. I massaged it with a lot of love, and it relaxed and disappeared. And that's the point where I asked her, well, what happened to your anxiety? And I'll never forget that moment. It was, the eureka moment. She paused, she was silent. She said, and the anxiety went away. She wasn't actually looking at the cause of the anxiety. She was looking at the physical manifestation, which was connected to that anxiety. She could relax that, and when that was relaxed, so was the anxiety. And she was out of bed in a few days, back to classes, graduated with first-class honours. And then I got an email from her. It said, are you available on this date? Because she insisted that I would be the one who gave the blessing when she married Lloyd in Supreme Court Gardens. No, not Supreme Garden. It was the Sunken Garden, in UWA. And she even went as far as to, she told me also, I hope you don't mind, Ajahn Brahm, but I'm nominating you for Australian of the Year this year. I didn't need that. But what I really loved was the fact that it worked for her. And she got immense gratitude. She's now married, got 2 kids, and no problem with anxiety anymore. That's how to relax. And my goodness, it just really works. And you do it yourself. So whenever she has a relapse, and she now can overcome her anxiety. Brilliant. And also there was one of the doctors who comes here, that she was, I thought I told a story to you before, but it must have been to another group somewhere. But she had a patient in the hospital, I think it was Charlie Gardner's, who had anxiety and had a supply of oxygen because she was so anxious. She needed that oxygen, otherwise she couldn't breathe properly. And she told me that the usual method of treatment is to try the most successful drug which has been used in the past. If that doesn't work, try the next drug. Had a whole list of drugs. And when she got to the last drug on the list, nothing was working. She still had this terrible anxiety. She said it was on a Thursday afternoon, and she said, before I left the hospital, I thought, well, why not? Let's try Ajahn Brahm method. We couldn't tell anybody, because that would be, malpractice or something. It hasn't been tested, it hasn't been approved. So no one was looking. Said, look, get anxiety, just where do you feel it in your chest? Massage it. And she said, okay. And she came to work the following morning, on a Friday morning, and this woman had her mask off. I said, what are you doing? She said, I feel okay now, I'm going home. It worked. And I thought, wow, great. Why? It works. There's nothing wrong with that. You're not giving other drugs. Why can't you let people try that out and make it work? I was very happy that it did work. Anyway, Ajahn, how important positive energy in meditation? It's quite important. Is place we meditate important to have positive energy, or it needs to develop within ourselves? Please explain both. But the more you meditate, the more you can create positive energy wherever you are. And some of my meditations I've had in some weird places, really good meditations. In hospitals, in airports, in funeral homes, in burning grounds. In Thailand, Ajahn Chah said, when you're going on, they call it Tudong, the walkabout through the forest and the jungles of poor people, if you're going through villages and you want a quiet place to stay the night, ask where the burning ground is, the cremation ground is. And you go in there and the villagers will leave you alone. Because they're more scared of ghosts than you are. I remember just people asked me, aren't you scared of ghosts, Ajahn Brahm? I said, no, not at all. Because in Thailand, the ghosts, they speak in Thai, and I can understand English. I don't know what they're talking about. I said that. They thought I was crazy, which was quite true. My question regarding positive energy written in the morning before the talk, you have answered most of it with the talk. Please explain further place of meditation and positive energy. Sometimes those places, they've had some really good experiences before. So, the hall at Bodhinyana Monastery has some great people meditating in there, getting lots of really good energy. So, of course, it's going to be powerful. Vulture's Peak, there's a Buddha meditating up there. Of course, that's powerful. The Bodhgaya, whoa, huge energy there. So, there are some places they do have very easy energy. A few minutes before this morning chanting, I was doing a recollection of the Buddha meditation. Then I felt a wave of a warm energy of compassion, metta, in front on top flowing into me. Not so sure what it was. Could I be imagining, hallucinating? It doesn't matter imagining, hallucinating, it's working. So you're getting some good energy. So don't have doubt and spoil it by thinking. So you get some energy coming, you're doing a reflection of the Buddha and you feel energy coming into your body. Great. Could it be that maybe someone, you, was radiating compassion, something, and I caught some? Yes, that might be a not good idea. You always radiate compassion if you're a monk. It could be one of the nuns. Was it any of you? Anyone confessing? In any case, I was overwhelmed and tears started flowing and I had to stop. Oh, why do you have to stop? Let the tears flow. There's nothing wrong, as I said earlier. So if something starts to happen, don't doubt it. Beautiful energy coming up, nice warm feeling, powerful sort of stuff coming into your body and mind. Don't doubt that and spoil it. And if you get inspired and start crying, don't spoil it because you think, I'm not allowed to cry. Is crying against any of the 8 precepts? Which precepts is it against? None of them. Is it in any of the rules? Did Leha tell you that when you come on retreat, if you cry, you have to go home? Of course not. Crying is okay. Please offer your view and some guidance as to what to do should it happen again. If it happens again, don't interfere with it, let it happen. And also, allow yourself to cry and enjoy it. Hey Ajahn, auras all talked about a lot in different circles. Energy fields surrounding living beings. Lots of people claim to see them. Do you have experience with that or any other psychic abilities come to you on your path? When I was into the Psychic Research Society, when I was a student, I actually bought the aura glasses. They're supposed to enhance your seeing of auras. I put them on. Didn't work at all. But energy fields around you. Instead of actually seeing them, you can feel them sometimes. You can feel people with really good energy. People with not so good energy. And the best simile which somebody said was like the simile of spikes. He said that every human being has spikes coming out of them, invisible spikes. You can't see them. And if you get, some people, you get even not that close to them, you can feel that it's just really uncomfortable in their presence. You've been with people like that, they just come into the room and you want to get out. Feel they've got bad energy surrounding them. Very spiky people. Most people have got just, ordinary length spikes. You can be sharing the cottage with them. But you get too close to them and you get scratched. And there are other people, you're really good friends, close friends. You think they haven't got any spikes at all, but you get too close to them and you get sort of warned and go away. But there are some people who've got no spikes at all. You can get as close as you like to them, even irritate. We don't irritate them, say bad things and try and find out just if they've got any spikes, but they haven't. So I like the idea of like spikes. And obviously, like good nuns have got no spikes. Is that correct? You're not answering. And sometimes good monks are like that. Sometimes there's some monks, and just, they just blow your mind that just, you feel so safe in their presence. That monk, passed away years ago, Ajahn Tate, and I told you I went with all my questions and had to wait to see him a day or two. And when my appointment came, my time came, all these questions to ask one of the great monks of Thailand. And my mind went totally blank and peaceful. I had no questions to ask at all. And I just was blasted with this spikelessness. This little old monk, very famous, very powerful, but just so kind. You could feel the door of his heart was totally open to all beings. It's wonderful to be with people like that. So unconditional love. And he didn't need any questions because you feel that. I was brought up, obviously, being a university theoretical physics, just so cerebral, with valuing concepts and ideas and just how words and sentences relate to each other and how you can formulate arguments. I was very good at arguing with my friends and winning most of those arguments. But then you went to meet with people like Ajahn Chah and Ajahn Tate, and the arguments weren't important. The feelings were. You could feel that peace. You could feel that sort of emptiness. You could feel that kindness. So what do you want to ask a question about it for? You had it right in front of you. You didn't need descriptions of it. So there's amazing monks that when you're with them, the power is not just to energize you, it's to make you feel so peaceful and so perfect and acceptable. So you didn't need to worry about, I'm not good enough. They were just shouting at you, of course you are. Anyway, last question for this evening. Has the Buddha ever used humor for preaching, or was it serious stuff all the time? I just was talking to Ajahn Brahmavamso about this, and there's a few places where there's humor. And one of those places where I think it was walking with Ananda, didn't really matter who, and they saw the Jains at the time. They were standing on one leg just all day looking at the sun. And what are they doing that for? And why don't we practice like that as Buddhist monks? And he said, because those Jains, they've made much more worse karma in their past life than we have, so we don't need to do this. And you can see that was like, the way it was put was actually almost funny. And the Buddha showing his sense of humor. And just humor was not as much used in those days as these days. But Ajahn Chah had a brilliant sense of humor, beautiful sense of humor, and he was laughing so much, especially for his Western disciples. And sometimes you couldn't believe how stupid we were. But he would never get angry at us. And he actually wanted more Western disciples because we entertained him so much. And just one example, I think it's an old example, but in those early years, even Ajahn Chah, he was getting famous, but it's still a poor monastery in the northeast. So the supplies, toothpaste or whatever, they were in this big old water jar next to his seat. And people came to offer things, all went in the water jar. And when a monk wanted something, he'd had to look inside, what's here? No, this do? Okay, you take it away. It's very simple. We didn't need that much. But one day I needed some soap, to wash. I'd run out of soap. And so I went up to him, bowed, and asked him, he couldn't speak English, in the best Thai I could, so can I have some soap? He looked at me and said, "What do you want that for?" I said, "No, to wash." And he burst out laughing, almost fell off his seat. Because the word for soap is sabu. I said sapo. And we're the Thai people here. And then what he heard was sapo means pineapple. He said, "What do you need pineapple for?" To wash. And he looked around, "Oh, these people in England are very advanced. In the West, they wash with pineapple, not soap like we do here in Thailand." And he enjoyed that so much. For the next couple of days, he totally humiliated me to all the people who visited. "Oh, yeah, and this is a monk who washes in pineapple." But I soon learned the difference between saying pineapple and saying soap. But that's the sort of humour he had. And, it was good because, people would laugh, just at anything over there. And you could see it was just such a loose and comfortable culture, and very rarely did people get offended. I remember there's a son of one of the big major generals in Thailand. And the generals, that's a much better general story. If you go to Bodhinyana Monastery, the holy water, sprinkle everybody. So one day, this major general, and you know how powerful the generals are in Thailand. Already, right now, one of the generals is leading the government. And anyway, the generals have always been politically very powerful in so many different ways. So one of the generals came to see Ajahn Chah with all of his colonels and other people who just followed him, and all the other soldiers with their guns, and a whole 30, 40 people, all military. And he came right up to Ajahn Chah and just asked a few questions, said, "I need a blessing. Can you bless me with the holy water?" And Ajahn Chah didn't usually have holy water. He said, "No, I really need some from you." So Ajahn said, "Come over here." And Ajahn said, "Just bend your head in front here." And so you saw this major general, very powerful person, bend his head. And Ajahn Chah spat all this saliva onto the general's hair, and then just pushed his luck even further, took his hand and rubbed it in. That's a true story. And the general was just so happy, special holy water. Not from a bowl, but right from Ajahn Chah's mouth. "Oh, thank you, thank you, thank you." Sometimes we thought Ajahn Chah was pushing his luck too much. And that was one time we thought he's gone too far. But the general loved it. And so it's just very, very funny. Oh boy, I shouldn't actually go into too many of those Ajahn Chah stories and jokes. But he was very innovative. And some of the things he said, were just, you never forgot, and, gave another meaning to some of the attachments you had in life. One of his other famous stories, when I'm on this, the last one, I promise, maybe, was because I was in the car at the time, and I think Ajahn Chah was going to the train station in Warin. That was the main way you can get to Bangkok. And he had his Thai driver, Ajahn Chah was in the passenger seat, and there's 3 monks in the back, I was one of them. And then next to me was this young novice called Gary, and he was actually from Las Vegas. That's where he grew up, where he went to school and university. And there was another monk who had this amazing ability to translate. A Western monk. He was from Washington State, in the US. And he was our main translator. And Ajahn Chah turned around and looked at this novice Gary and said, "You're thinking about your girlfriend back in Las Vegas, aren't you?" And I was sitting next to them, and just this poor novice, he just went red in the face. He'd been busted by Ajahn Chah. Because he'd just become a novice, and he was still sort of thinking about his girlfriend, a young man. And so he was very embarrassed and admitted it. And then Ajahn Chah said, "Don't worry, we can sort of help you." And it's all translated through the American translator, and said, "How?" He said, "I've heard that if you have a nice relationship with someone and you're parted, sometimes you have something personal of hers which you can keep in a pocket or in a bag. So whenever you miss her, you can take it out. Maybe like a lock of her hair, or maybe just a handkerchief with her smell on it, or a picture or something, so that you don't have to suffer so much when you're parted from her." And when I was translated, he said, and I thought as well, says, "Is that allowable? For a monk or like a nun, you're missing your boyfriend and you have a photograph of him or something?" And Ajahn Chah said, "Yes, it's allowable." We thought I really underestimated the compassion of Thai Buddhism. They really feel it's really important for you if you're missing someone and suffering. You have something of hers to remind you of her. Now what he said next, the translator took about 5 minutes to calm down until he could translate. He was laughing. And I didn't know what Ajahn Chah said, and certainly Gary never knew. And he said, Ajahn Chah just said that don't ask for a piece of her dress with a scent on or a lock of her hair. Just ask her to get a little bottle about this big and put some of her shit in it. And send that to you. And so whenever you miss your girlfriend, you can ask boyfriends to do this as well. Take it out. That's my... Back in Los Angeles. I love everything about you, darling. Yeah? And of course, we never forgot that. And that was like teaching us something. And in a beautiful way, just, is that allowable? Oh, yeah. And that was like the innovative wisdom of an Ajahn Chah. Brilliant stuff. Anyway, so that's enough for this evening. So if you miss anybody, maybe you've got a husband or boyfriend or girlfriend somewhere, and you come on a retreat and you miss them for 9 days, you don't have to. Or your partner or husband or wife or some misses you when you're on a retreat. Oh, I miss you, darling. 9 days is a long time. You know what to do now. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. Very good.